I do want to say this. I think that we are having a change in this 4K UHD space. A lot of us are collectors. I collect 4K UHD discs. I also do have a Kaleidescape. That's basically, like a unit that you can get movies like earlier before people get them on disc. So it's like 2 months early. You can get the movie or whatnot. And it's, 4K UHD disc quality or better, So I have that, but I also collect discs because I believe that people should have physical media. And the reason why I think people should have physical media is that you never know what can happen. One, you can have an electrical issue to where like maybe the internet goes out throughout the neighborhood or something and you're unable to access the internet. Well, then all your streaming services, whatever you have, it doesn't matter at that point because you can't access the internet, or maybe go on your phone or whatever to watch one of your favorite apps. You may not be able to do it because you can't go on the internet. Well, if you have the disc and the 4K UHD player, it doesn't matter. You can just take the disc in, pop it in and watch it without internet, because it's happened to me a couple times to where either somebody has hit like a power line or something and the internet or whatever went out, or they were doing service or maintenance. I couldn't access the internet. It's happened like quite a few times, like living in Nashville, Tennessee. So having access to the 4K UHD like content, I think is good. Also it's better quality, is way better than streaming in terms of audio and visual. Now I will say visual fidelity on streaming, depending on the TV, your source and how much internet you have. I think streaming picture quality is getting very close to 4K UHD. Me, myself, I have a LG G4 television. I think it's getting close, right? So I can see, what's better and what's not, banding that you get in streaming versus not getting that in the, on disc. And audio quality obviously is going to be better on the disc than it is in streaming. Streaming, you usually have to bump up the volume just to get any type of dynamics out, so streaming has its limitations unless, obviously Apple, they're thinking about doing an audio pass-through, which would allow like your receivers, processors, sound bars, or whatever to process the audio. That would be good, and then that way it would get a little bit closer to what 4K UHD is. Now, in terms of, what I think is happening to 4K UHD, right? The disc collectors like me and everybody else, I think a lot of these influencers, and I don't think that it's them doing it purposely, right? People like to create content. I like to create content, tell you what I think about different products or whatever. Or if it's a movie I like to talk about it or whatever, subscribe to the channel for that. But a lot of people are creating these 4K channels, which is helping to build a community. And they're places that everybody can go and talk to each other in the comments about different things that's come out, and then you get like a heads up on different, 4Ks that are going to be remastered. It's going to come out and all of that. It's fun. Like, I like it and I love it, so like I watch a lot of different content myself, but I think a lot of these guys that are doing this, some of them really don't even watch the movies. They just like continue to push out content just to, it's kind of like news, right? Just to inform you on what's coming out. And, they really, as much content as they push out, a lot of these guys, they can't watch all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they have a few of them that they watch, you know what I mean? But, at least they're informing us about what's going on, right? The problem lies is that when you have this kind of traffic, a lot of these guys, like I've seen some of them with over 100,000 subscribers. Right. And you got some of them with 50, 60,000, 30,000 subscribers. Like I got 130,000 on my other channel. Like I understand like what a channel can do impact wise when you have that many people following the channel. The problem lies is when studios start seeing that there is like a, this niche market is starting to become bigger and people are following these influencers, they start to increase prices. Because they know that we want the steel books, we want like Master and Commander or something, we want these things, so they feel like they want to make as much money as they can, as much money as possible, make things exclusive, make, force you to get the steel book, raise prices on the regular 4K UHD. And they think we'll just deal with it because there's content creators that's telling us that, the disc looks good. A lot of these content creators get the disc before anybody else, and they could, they're under an embargo before they can talk to you about it. But a lot of times they talk to you about it and you got to wonder, like, are the opinions like really valid? Are some of these 4K UHD discs, really that great? Or are they just saying that because they got, a copy of it for free? Something you got to think about. But, with these studios watching all of these people with all these channels, it enables them to say, okay, we've got, there's 10,000 views on this video, 20, 30,000 views on this video. This person's pushing this product. Let's raise prices because people are showing a lot of interest in these products or these CDs or discs that we have coming out, the 4K UHD disc or Blu-rays or what have you, right? So they end up raising the cost. Another thing that I think is hurting the 4K UHD market for people who are everyday average consumers is the scarcity. Because you have these people with these big channels that's talking about everything and promoting everything, which is good. It's great. I don't have any problems with that. Like, other than it causes scarcity, because if you're not paying attention to these channels, when they let you know what's going to be going up for pre-order, like what may be on Arrow Video, like there was an issue to where they sold out of the movie The Sale, like super fast. Like after a couple people put up videos, they were sold out. That it's other movies that happens to on a regular basis. They sell out quick. Once they go up and they tell you about these movies, you can go on Walmart.com, pre-order, or go, Amazon is going to have pre-orders for this and that, and people going to run and they do it. Now it creates scarcity, right? So that is the second issue I feel like that's going on. And then 3, I think the scalpers, a lot of people are creating bots to sit and order these movies, and then by the time you are able to get in there to order it, they're all sold out, and then they go ahead and they put everything up for resale on eBay or whatever and try to collect money doing it that way. So that ends up hurting the process of collecting 4K UHDs, hyperinflation, people charging more for the products, and then everything's going up, taxes going up, the cost of everything's going up. So it's like, the last thing you need is scalpers to be buying up everything in the market and then putting it back out on eBay and robbing everybody and charging us astronomical amounts of money for discs, right? There's been quite a few that we've seen that happen with, So I think those are some of the issues, how I've been able to get around it, right? And this is not for everybody. This is just for me. And now I'm not telling you guys to buy this at all. You know what I mean? Because I've got my criticism with this device. I've gotten a Kaleidescape. And so what that is, it's basically, let me show you guys this, right? So some people, they have the Zydu device, and like a Zydu can, you can rip, movies to it. You can do all of that. Cool, right? But what I have is a Kaleidescape device, right? So with this, I no longer have to wait for the disc. Like after the movie, like, Ballerina, for instance, I had the movie 2 months before the movie was released on disc. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of movies are like that. You get them like 2 months before, 2 to 3 months before they're released on disc. And another thing is, like, you can just get the movie. You don't have to wait for it to be shipped. It's 4K quality, 4K UHD quality, or better. It's got actually more data on the movie than the disc. Like a disc might have like 69 gigs of data, maybe 73 gigs of data, whereas like on a Kaleidescape it might have 100 gigs of data. So that means that the audio is going to have less compression, the video is going to have less compression, less banding. So if you're watching it on a bigger screen, it's going to have more clarity because there's more information, things like that, right? Also, the availability of the disc, you don't have to worry about that anymore because you could just go on to the movie store and the site, and then once you're on the site, you can just, if a movie's out, you can just get it, or whatever. You just go on the site, you see it. Let's just say you want the movie 28 years later. You just buy it, just like that. That's it. You don't have to wait for the disc. You just get it. New releases, that may not have hit disc, you can just get it and then download it, and it's right there. Or the new F1. A lot of people were talking about F1. You can just get it and download it, and it's right there. The problem that I have about the Kaleidescape is it's expensive. Some movies are expensive and some are reasonable. Like the new Mission Impossible is $24, right? So this is, you can either buy the whole bundle with all of the movies for $34 with the new Mission Impossible, or you could just get the Mission Impossible movie for $24. The cool thing about this is this has got 110 gigabytes of data. So this is way less compressed than disc. So like with movie companies like Disney, right? They're going to give you a 66 gigabyte disc. And so the problem with that is that you only got so much information on the disc. You got 66 gigs. You got to put the, not only does the movie have to go on there, the deleted scenes got to go on there, the behind the scenes got to go on there. So all of that. So you might have like 10 gigs being utilized or used up just for those features. So you really getting like 56 gigs of the movie, whereas this you get 110 gigs. We do have 100 gig discs, so that's a cool thing that they do with 4K UHD. Cool, right? But it's not gonna have 110 gigs of data allocated to the actual movie, to where like if you have like a nice sound bar or a nice home theater set up with a receiver, speakers all around, you're going to get the highest fidelity sound that you can possibly get. And it's a way to mitigate or get away from, let me show you guys this one movie, because I've been having the biggest, like the hardest time getting this movie, right? So the movie I'm talking about is Kingdom of Heaven, right? So there was an issue to where people weren't able to get it. You had to go through scalpers, you had to get it on eBay, because where you got all these people with these channels that continue to pump out 4K UHD content and how to get the movie and where to get it, and just go to this link and buy it because they get kickbacks, right? So in order to circumvent that, I just got a Kaleidescape, and this movie, The Kingdom of Heaven, it's 4K quality, Dolby Atmos, and you actually have more disk space. You have more data with the 4K Dolby. You got to download the 4K HDR10, which is 104 gigs, or the Dolby Vision, which is 107.3 gigabytes. Way more data than you would have on the disc, right? And if like I said, if it's a Disney movie, it's going to be 66 gigs, or if it's another 4K UHD, it's going to have 100 gigs, but you're really going to have, cut 10 gigs out for, the data is going to be used up for other resources and things like that. But with the Kaleidescape, you don't have to worry about that. Like Dune, for instance, is another movie to where you have way more data. So if you're watching it on a projector or you have a super high-end television, you can watch it and see more clarity and more detail than you can from the 4K UHD disc. So that is the cool thing about the Kaleidescape. The negative about the Kaleidescape is the price, right? This thing is like $4,400 to get into it. I think it's like $3,000 to get into it, but then it's like it could go all the way up to like $4,400 just for the actual player. Then you're talking about storage and all of that, and the player that I have is the Kaleidescape Strato V, and that thing was $4,000, but they just raised the price, so it's $4,400, and you can only download 10 movies at a time. You can have a big library, but you can only have 10 movies on it at a time unless you get like an external storage device that can hold everything, and that way everything will be easily accessible. That's super expensive. Like, do I recommend somebody getting a Kaleidescape? No, I do it because I like to have the movies way ahead of time, and then if I have an issue getting the disc, I could just go to Kaleidescape and get it right away, and it's going to be better quality than the disc. You know what I mean? More often than not. The only negative, besides the price, is that sometimes there are 4K UHD discs with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, and on Kaleidescape, you would have to choose, right? And let me show you guys this. Let me show you guys this, because this is one issue that I actually had a problem with them about, right? So if you look at this, right, you go to buy this movie, I already got it. But let's just say if I was to download it again, right, I could download the 4K HDR version, but this is only going to give me the 5.1 audio. But I would have to download the HD version in order to get the Dolby Atmos. So that would defeat the purpose of downloading the 4K UHD version, right? Or the 4K version of the movie, So sometimes like you may run into issues like that, but for the most part, it's 4K Dolby Atmos, and it's going to look better than a disc. So, and as a collector, I've been forced to do this to get the Kaleidescape because it's like so many movies that I want. I either, I have to get it like secondhand, which is it's already been bought by a bot or something, and I got to get it from eBay, or, I have to get it from Amazon and it's an inflated price on that, or I have to wait, you know, like when the movie is released to the public, I have to wait 2 months for the disc to even be like released to the public. Whereas with the Kaleidescape, I can get it 2 or 3 months before anybody even can get it on a disc. You know, so that is the cool thing about the Kaleidescape, right? But 4K UHD discs, I always recommend getting the disc if you can. And the only reason I say that, like I said, you can have internet outages, or the apps that you subscribe to, they may, you know, go ahead and, you know, get rid of the movie, and then you don't have access to the movie. If you have the disc, even the Kaleidescape, you know, you can get movies on the Kaleidescape, whatnot. Cool, you know, you have all these different options of movies or whatever you can buy in better quality in disc. That's great, but the problem is with Kaleidescape, if this business goes out of business, you know, you can potentially lose all the money that you know, all the movies that you bought. You know, so I always recommend getting the disc whenever possible, even though it may not be as good as Kaleidescape. Sometimes I double dip. Sometimes I might get the Kaleidescape and I might get the disc, like depending on the movie. If I really like it, I just got disposable income, just want to feel like buying something, I'll do that, you know. But I feel like with the movie companies increasing the prices of all of their discs, it's forced me to go to Kaleidescape. Because like right now, for instance, right, let's just say, because there are movies that are cheaper on the Kaleidescape than the disc, right? So for instance, this one, Wicked, they're still selling this on disc for $20-something. Then you got to pay shipping unless you have Amazon. You know, then you have to pay to get it to the house, and then you don't know what the condition is going to be in, which I can just get it on Kaleidescape, and it's, what, $20 to buy, and that's it. You know, and then they also run sales on Kaleidescape, right? And I'm not telling you guys to get the Kaleidescape, but I'm just telling you what I've done. They run sales on Kaleidescape, and then you can just, you know, sometimes you can get movies for like $14. Like some movies that you have to pay $29 for, like for the disc. You know, so that's an interesting thing that I think is kind of better in some ways with the Kaleidescape. So when we run into these issues to where it's hard to get the disc, I could just run to the Kaleidescape and get it. You know, maybe people have found other ways, but this is a completely legal way to get the movies through Kaleidescape movie store. But you have to pay a pretty penny for the hard drive or the disc player. You know, so it's forced me to do that. But like I said, I still collect the disc. But with these more creators coming into the fold, like creating more content, 4K UHD based, it's going to get harder and harder to find discs. And the studios are going to continue to mark prices higher and higher. And also, we may be running into an issue to where studios may not be releasing as many discs as they did before, right? Because like I said, we are a niche audience. A niche art audience, you know, so we're not the masses are not running around with 4K UHD players. Like, they're not. People are consuming movies through iPads and phones and, you know, just their TVs and stuff like that, Apple TV. That's how the masses consume, right? They don't really care about super high fidelity picture quality of a 4K UHD disc like we do. So studios, they're going to gouge us, right? And they're only going to put out a set amount of product out there. And then, you know, prices go up and then things become scarce. So I feel like those are the issues, but that's my way that I've gotten around it through with the Kaleidescape, not telling you to get it. I'm just saying, look into alternative means. But as far as the disc, always keep the disc if you can get it. You know what I'm saying? But y'all tell me what y'all think down in the comment section below. Also, another cool thing about the Kaleidescape, I will say this. So Tron Legacy is coming out, right? So they it's already out, but it's in 1080p, I think 7.1 or 5.1, where they're remastering it. And so now it's going to be 4K. A lot of us have been wanting that because they're trying to do this with the Tron Ares. They're trying to come out with to, you know, double dip, make money off the 4K UHD, which is smart. I don't have no problem with that. But, you know, it's going to come out on the disc with Dolby Atmos, right? Great. But this is, I think Disney is putting this out. And you know how Disney is, right? So if you go to pre-order this movie, Tron Legacy, I think it's like 40 or 49 bucks. And you've got to get like the steel book to get the movie, right? So they're price gouging. So the cool thing about the Kaleidescape, I bought Tron Legacy for, I think they had it for $10, $14 or $10, like one of them, because they run sales all the time. So I bought it for whatever it was, $14 or $10. when there's an update, like an updated codec, or they redo the movie or remaster the movie, and it moves from 1080p to 4K, all I have to do is download it in 4K for free with the Atmos track on it for free. You know, I don't have to rebuy the movie, you know, so that's the cool thing. And then there's also a lot of movies that are in 4K that are not on disc in 4K, you know, so it helps with stuff like that. So, you know, but I feel like, you know, we all are collectors. I still like to collect, you know, depending on how much space you have, you know, that could be an issue, you know, with collecting. But, you know, if you can get the disc, keep the disc, you know. But I do feel like studios are going to keep increasing prices, and I think consumers are going to have to find a different way after a while to consume content, because, you know, we're going to get to the point, I'm not paying $50 for a disc. Like, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? If I could just buy it for like $20 on a Kaleidescape, why am I going to pay you like $30 or 30, you know, $35 or $40 for a disc when I could just wait for a sale and just get it, and it's going to be better quality? That's my use case scenario. Not everybody's going to be able to do that or have the disposable income to do it. But, you know, if we just want the disc, I think we're going to have problems moving into the future. You know what I mean? But this is a fun, you know, hobby that we all have, and I hope, you know, more people continue to come into the fold. But the byproduct of that is what it is: higher costs, scarcity, you know, and yeah, it's what we're gonna have to deal with. You know what I'm saying? But tell me what y'all think down in the comment section below. Comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think about that. Peace.